Hello and welcome back to the Unlocked Potential podcast. On this week's episode, we have Pierce Dargan, the co-founder of Equine Medi Record. Pierce gave us a breakdown on how he started his multiple businesses and the help that's available for us from the local enterprise office. I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for coming on, Pierce. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me. And apologies. I wasn't out fighting. I was playing a rugby match yesterday for De La Salle against Sea Point, so apologies for the bit of the shiner on my face.
So for anybody listening doesn't know who you are, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Pierce Dargan. So I started a company called Equine Medi Record back in 2016. So what we do is compliance software for the equine industry around animal welfare and anti-doping. I also set up a social enterprise with a college friend of mine called Tom Austin called Secret Street Tours that helps people who've been affected by homelessness and trains them to become tour guides of the local areas and tell their story with homeless while giving some of the points of the local area, the history. So that's kind of my two things that I do, involved in other things, obviously rugby and politics, but yeah, from a business perspective.
Yeah, that's the tour. What's the company called again?
Secret Street Tours.
Yeah.
So that was started in 2019 with a friend of mine called Tom Austin. So he went over to Vienna, and every time he goes traveling, the thing he loves to do is go on a walking tour to kind of see the city. And it just so happened that in Vienna, one of the top ones on TripAdvisor was this tour given by someone who'd been affected by homelessness.
Yeah.
And he said it really struck a chord with him. It was amazing to hear this tour guide story. The man in particular had been a doctor, taken out a big loan to start his own practice, had medical issues, couldn't practice, was hospital bound. Obviously the loan then got recalled. He lost everything, ended up on the streets. And so he came back to Dublin, which still, unfortunately, is in a massive homelessness crisis. And he wanted to go on a similar tour in Dublin, and there wasn't one. Yeah. So he came to me.
And your business that you're doing now, that's none of the profits are going to you.
No, totally non-profit. Yeah. Everyone in the organisation is a volunteer, apart from the guides. So the guides who have been affected by homelessness, they are the ones that money is ring fenced for them. I'm a volunteer. I'm out of pocket because we had to set up the company, which costs a bit of money and everything else. Tom as well, and we have other people who volunteer, who help with formulating the tours and helping with public speaking. So all that money goes back to them. But the other thing, the bigger thing it does, it gives them confidence. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen, where you're dealing with people who really life has hit them hard.
Yeah, most of the time you think, like, when you see someone homeless, you think it's like like drugs or whatever. You don't think that something could have actually like really happened to them. Or half the time you think they're like putting it on. Do you ever get that? You hear from people, but obviously it's like it's not that. It's
really I think that one the one, and why it struck such a chord about Vienna was this was a doctor.
Yeah,
this was a doctor, and it just life took a turn. He took a loan out at the wrong time, and because he wasn't a national in Austria, because Vienna is in Austria, so he wasn't an Austrian national. He had emigrated into Austria, so he couldn't access certain supports. And so then the loan got called in, but obviously he wasn't being practiced, so he had no money, so he had to sell everything, and then it just spiraled. Yeah. And that's the thing, it can happen really.
To anybody, yeah.
It can, and you hear these stories where, obviously it's not the typical thing you'd think of. Obviously there's a perception, it's always, issues with drugs or issues with other things. And then you hear certain stories, you just go, no, this literally can happen to anyone, and circumstances can happen. So what we love to say is we try and build that confidence back up, and also then provide a way of getting back into employment, so that it's a stepping stone, because it's so much easier to get a job once you have a job.
Yeah.
So, we've had some great guides, and it's just the stories that you hear from them.
And where do you do the tours? Like what?
So around Smithfield, and then the Liberties area. So we have two tours at the moment. So Smithfield and Liberties area, and they give the history of the area. So one will start around, Dublin Castle, give the history of the castle and everything else. But then, our guide, Kenny, will say, and this is a place I used to come, and I used to stay and I would be here. It's a very peaceful place and everything else. So it's a way of not only you'll get what you'll get on any kind of tour around Dublin, the history of Dublin and everything else, but then it shows you that other side, of Dublin that maybe tourists wouldn't hear about. And it gives the stories that our guides have had. And, you know, Shane and Kenny, you know, just massively inspirational guys because of what they've gone through and how they've bounced back. So, you know, that's kind of the social enterprise. But as I say, totally non-profit. I'm a volunteer.
Yeah.
Tom Austin's a volunteer. You know, and that's kind of, we want to do it to provide that stepping stone and confidence, build back confidence.
And that's amazing. I say you're after helping so many people.
Yeah, I think it's something where
they probably went from being homeless now having a job and having somewhere to live and
so
having their own income.
Yeah, so I wrote letters to the council to help with certain guides to get housing, and you know they have homes now and they have income, you know, and they've reconnected with family because a lot of the time they lose contact with family, and it's just an amazing to see that also that transformation, you know, of certain guides where they almost struggle to talk to you because they're so nervous and such a lack of confidence to now, you know. Kenny and Shane have been on all the different news talk and RTE and everything else. It's just that kind of blossoming again, that they have that purpose and they have a positive outlook on life, and it's a stepping stone. And you know, they go back into education a lot of the time. So you know that money that's ring fenced because of the way that you know tax is formed. Sometimes we ring fence that and we'll pay for education. You know, so they'll go back into education and want to use that money for education. So, you know, it's just things like that. You know, and we'd love to, because we're all volunteers, obviously, you know, we'd love to help more people, but we're kind of constrained by, you know.
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah. But, you know, there have been other tours that, you know, it's very, in the UK, it's quite big. In Europe, across Europe, it's quite big. So
there's a lot of different countries that do the same thing, is it?
It's a type of social enterprise. So there's a load of different countries that do it. And it just so happened that Tom asked me, because obviously I'd started my own business. So he's like, how do I even start this? And so I told him the process is, you know, getting into, you know, an incubator and accelerator program, the supports that could be there from Local Enterprise Office or Enterprise Ireland, Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, because, you know, it was a social enterprise, because obviously it's a non-profit. There's a whole entity called Social Entrepreneurs Ireland. So to go to them. And it was just trying to navigate, because it's navigating that. It's kind of difficult to start your own business sometimes. You don't know where to start. If you haven't done it before, it's difficult to know where to start because there's so much to do. So I just helped them with that. And
then going back to your other business, your first business, I think it is.
That's
Yeah. So how do I pronounce that?
Equine Medi Record.
Yeah. Sorry. So how did you go about starting that, and how did you start that business?
Yeah. So that kind of came about. I had a short rugby career and came back to do my master's in Ireland, and there was an entrepreneurship module, and there was something, I don't know if it's still running. It was like the Old Tech innovation competition. So Old Tech's a really big multi-billion-dollar company in agri-food. And so it had to be around agriculture. So my family have a farm in Kildare with horses. And so that's kind of where I went down. And, you know, back in 2016, a bunch of new rules came out around owning a horse. You know, if you had a thoroughbred horse, you had to start recording all the medications down in this big blue book. And there was
stuff. What's a thoroughbred?
Thoroughbred horse.
I'd never.
No problem. Yeah, the thoroughbred would be kind of a racehorse. So they're the main breed of racehorse in Ireland. And so if basically there were a bunch of new rules, and if you didn't comply with those rules, you know, you could get fined, or in worst case, you could lose your license to have that horse. So, you know, and it was a big book, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll know how to do this. This will be easy, just recording some kind of stuff on a sheet. But I'm not a vet, and a lot of this was really complex veterinary stuff. And I was going, I don't know what I'm doing here. How am I going to do this? So I basically was like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Especially then I went back to college, and my trainer at my family's farm would call me being like, oh, can you put that in the medical book? And I'm like, no, I'm in Dublin. You know, you got to do it yourself. So it just wasn't working. So I went to the regulators, went to the Department of Agriculture, the Veterinary Council of Ireland, Veterinary Ireland, the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Board. There's a bunch of different agencies. And I was basically like, look, if I raise enough money to build a digital system, can you approve my digital system instead of this book, instead of this paper book? And it took 2 years because no one had done that in the world. So across the world, it was all a big paper book. So France, Japan, United States, they were still writing it in a big paper book. All the health records, you know, like human health records here, it's still paper.
Yeah.
So it was the same across the world for horses. And
I'd say most people that wore, like, it's really like more down the country that people that have horses, and most of them are much older and probably, you know, like don't know how to use the internet and stuff.
Yeah, there'd be quite a few in, you know, North County Dublin and stuff as well. But yeah, you won't find too many horses in Dublin city centre. But it took so long because it just, no one had done it before. No one had had an approved digital record before. So we got it approved. Got approved in the UK, France, United States, Saudi Arabia. And at the tail end of last year, we raised investment from a private equity fund based in Chicago, who own the largest equine veterinary software group in the world called Business Infusions, which is a Canadian company. Yeah. So now we're part of that group. So I'm still the chief executive of my company, but I'm the chief growth officer for that larger group, which is based out of Canada. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's been a pretty interesting couple of years.
Because after branching out into so many different countries now, that's unreal.
Yeah, no, it's a very international sport. So like Ireland is regarded as, if I can say this because I'm Irish, the best country when it comes to thoroughbred racing. Some people disagree, but it's all over the world. So United States, Saudi Arabia, Japan, Australia, South Africa, everywhere. So it's been, you know, awesome to be able to kind of travel around those countries, secure contracts in those countries, see different cultures, meet different people, you know. And I grew up in horse racing. My family's been involved in the thoroughbred industry for at least 5 generations, maybe longer, but at least 5. So, you know, being able to work in it and, you know, go to some of these events, I'd love to go to them, even if I was just going to watch them, and being able to actually work and meet the participants and meet the top trainers and jockeys and, you know, the horses as well, these amazing animals. And they all have, I kind of say, if you work with horses, they all have their own personalities. It's like, for me, a horse is like any sort of family pet, a dog or a cat. They all have that personality, and meet some of the horses who are superstars.
I've never even went horse riding. I was only saying to a fella there a while ago, I was like, we have to go horse riding.
Oh yeah, or get to a race day, you know. You're not too far away here. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of good race courses all around.
I don't know if I'd be scared, because obviously this, like, it wouldn't be normal for me to kind of probably be frightened, but come here.
Oh yeah, no, it's I'm not trying to say it's for everybody, but it is. There's been some really interesting research around the relationship with people and horses, because there's a great company called Child Vision. I don't know if you've heard of Child Vision. So they work with
Child Vision,
So they work with you know, kids who'd have intellectual disabilities, and they're actually building a centre at the moment in North County Dublin called the National Equine Rehabilitation Centre. I think I got the name right, hopefully, which basically it brings children into work with horses who have those intellectual disabilities as a therapy. And it was really interesting. They had an individual come in and talk around the actual scientific reason why is it that when you have people who have, you know, these disabilities, that they seem to, the therapy really works when they go and they interact with horses and they ride horses. Why is that so successful? And it was the rocking motion supposedly stimulates a part of the brain which actually helps with relaxing these children who have these issues. And so they've actually now got a bunch of research around how horses and horse riding can actually help as a therapeutic you know, way of helping children with these disabilities. So there's so many different things to the horse industry and parts of it, but I just love that one because, you know, it's something that a lot of people don't know about, even though I think Child Vision during COVID, they were able to actually, they got permission to bring the horses to these estates where their clients were, because obviously no one could go 5 kilometers out. And so there's a great program. I think RTE did it around the
They brought the horses.
They brought the horses literally to the children, and you could see these children, and some of them had severe disabilities, you know, and you could see the reaction, the happiness when they could see outside the window, oh, horse, oh, you know, here comes my pet pony, I can't wait, you know, to go on. So, you know, I think, and Ireland is world renowned for horses. Even if you're not involved in it, I hope everyone, it's part of the culture almost that we have this special relationship with horses. So, you know, it was a massive privilege to be able to kind of work in and try and help, like, especially when it comes, my company, the whole thing is compliance to animal welfare and anti-doping rules. So basically making sure that any horse that goes out, whether it's, you know, in equestrian sport or horse racing, is safe to do so, you know, and that if, God forbid, something were to happen, there is, you know, an instant trail of records going, okay, what's happened? What went wrong? You know, why did it, and can we prevent this next time?
Yeah.
So,
would you ever go into like vets and stuff like that today? Or is that all paperwork?
Yeah.
Is that all paperwork still?
So that's what the company that invested in my company, that's what they do. So they're the largest equine veterinary software group. So they run all of the equine hospitals. So basically, if there is an equine hospital that is more than 20 vets, they have the only system that they can use. So they have, you know, the largest one in America is called Haggett's, the largest one in England's Newmarket, Scone in Australia, Dubai, Qatar. They run all the software for all of them, basically doing everything from, you know, the horse's patient records to inventory management, like how many drugs do we have in the hospital right now? When do we need to reorder? Invoicing. It's a huge system. So, and it's run by a guy, Scott Pickard, who started the business, I think, back in 2006. He started that business. So it's been amazing for me to kind of be able to work with him. You know, he's a very successful entrepreneur, and learn from him, because a lot of the time, like, I started right out of college. Really, I played a bit of rugby. I did part-time jobs, but I didn't have really any full-time job in business, and it was going.
And I'd say it'd be like kind of near enough the same system for what he started to what you're doing.
Oh, there's so many synergies and pushing records between. So like a lot of the time, the vets are like the doctors. So they'll be doing these treatments and everything else. So being able to link our system into theirs, the vets obviously will put it in because they want to bill for helping and doing their services. And with the bill, they can push those records over into ours. So there's so much that can be done. But yeah, it's been an amazing kind of journey to an idea through to actually launching a product, through to then and then internationally expanding. I'd be lying to you if I was there going, oh yeah, I knew when I started my business that we'd be working down in Saudi Arabia. Of course not. You know, you just got to kind of see what's the next goal, the next goal, the next goal. If you get too fascinated on, you know, 10 years down the line, you know, you miss the things that you got to do to get there. So.
And so how did you go and talking about all the grants and stuff with the local enterprise office? How did you receive any of them, or how did you go about like starting your business? Yeah,
so I was very fortunate. So when I did, when I had the idea and I started the business, I was studying in Trinity College, and Trinity have an incubator program, which is run by Tangent, which is called Launchbox. So I did that, and basically what that does is it kind of brings you from an idea to a business and telling you, okay, you got to, you know, register a company, you got to find accountants, you got to do you got to find a lawyer because you're going to have a load of terms and conditions to do. And so they take you those early stages, but there is one that's open to everyone called New Frontiers, and that has 3 phases now. So I actually also did that while, you know, I think it was slightly before doing the Launchbox one as well in Media Cube. So that's open. Anyone can apply to those. So New Frontiers is run by Enterprise Ireland, which is is an agency from the Irish government. So basically what that will teach you is, if you have a great idea, you have an amazing idea, you're going to take over the world with this idea, but you don't really know how to make that into a business, or how you're going to source the materials, or what you're going to do from a legal perspective. You go and apply.
I feel like most people don't know. That's the thing that they don't know. Like,
no, because unless you've started a business, how are you supposed to know, really? Or you have to go find people who have. You know, and this is what Enterprise Ireland with New Frontiers and the local enterprise office, that is what they are there for. So they are there to support you. So what I always say is, you know, if you're starting a business, my first protocol would go to your local enterprise office. So they're in every county in Ireland. And they literally, I should say, depending on which county, I've heard different things. The one in Kildare that I was lucky to be part of, because my business is based in Kildare, were phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And they kind of instructed me and coached me through, okay, you know, this an idea, feasibility grant. That's the first one you go for. It's 15 grand. You got to match fund it. There are criteria, I should say. It's open to everyone to apply, but there are criteria you have to fulfill to get that grant.
Yeah.
But there are other grants then after that, priming grants, business expansion grants, export grants, the online vouchers, which I believe you got that one.
Website, yeah.
There you go. So, but they also they have advisors in there as well. So they'll link you to people from your industry. So for us, we were looking for tech. So they had a really good tech advisor who had expanded a business internationally. So he knew some of the hurdles that we were going to come into. But then there's also Enterprise Ireland. So local enterprise office I'd go to first. I'd talk to them about the grants that are available, how to go about those. Do you meet the criteria? Does your business meet the criteria? But while doing that, I'd also apply to New Frontiers. You are able to do both. You just can't draw down funding from both at the same time. No. You're not allowed to do that. But you can go in to do New Frontiers Phase 1. So New Frontiers Phase 1, all of it is about basically, what is your idea? How are you going to make that into a business? What are the revenue streams? What are the costs going to be? All that type, the nitty gritty of the early stages of a business plan. That's New Frontiers Phase 1. There's no funding with that. But then if you go into New Frontiers Phase 2, there's 15 grand of funding with that. So that goes straight to you. There's no conditions on it. And it's basically money to allow you to work full time on your new business and your new business idea. And I think there is now a Phase 3, but when I started back in 20, there was no Phase 3. So there is a new Phase 3 supposedly that you can go on to after that. But basically then that's if you're staying local. So those things are things that...
If one, like say, enterprise office or something says no to you or isn't really helpful, are you able to go to another one if it's not in your area? Like, aren't you?
I think...
I know a lot of my students would go and get funding for my courses. They'd go to their enterprise office and some will say no. I had a student that had to go to 3 and then she got funding. Yeah. So that's on like you are able to go to a different one just because it's not in your area. Because I know you have to go to the one that's in your area most of the time, isn't it?
Yeah. I see. It depends if you have a registered business. So if you only have an idea at that stage, so it's not registered anywhere. So now I'd have to check where you'd have to have some. I don't know is the answer. I'd assume you can't, like I can't just go, okay, well, Dublin City said no, so I'm going to go ask Galway. I have no connection with Galway. I don't think you can do that.
Dublin,
but there are a couple in Dublin. And I think if you had, even if the business, especially if the business wasn't registered, if you had a connection with that area, if you lived in that area or, your business partner lived in that area or something like that, I think that would be legitimate. The answer is I don't really know. It's interesting that you say that they had to go to 3.
Yeah, I feel like I've had a lot of students trying to apply for funding for courses, and some of the offices are real like they don't really want to help you. Some of them are just kind of like, oh, that course isn't accredited, and I'm like, it is. I give you all the information. They're just not ours to look really. And then I have other girls where there's some of the social workers are really helpful. I had a girl the other day in my course. I was saying I was going to come on to my Instagram story and talk about that. I think I said it to you before we started the podcast. She went in and said, I want to go self-employed. Now she has an accountant they pay for. They're paying her money for, she's getting still social welfare off them. Social welfare payment, I think it's the PUP or whatever, for the next 2 years. Obviously it gets a bit lower on the second year. She got grants. They're still paying for the baby's creche. It's just like so much help for someone to go out and work for themselves where no one even knows about that.
Yeah,
it's mad. Like that's all. That's why I was like, when she said that to me today, I was like, that's crazy that there actually is so much help even with the grants and stuff that you were saying, and no one really even knows about any of this.
Yeah, I don't know about that individual situation. All I can say is there is a lot of support out there. If you want to start a business. There are places that you can turn. And I think that it's not well known enough. And I will be honest, I've heard different things about different ones from different people, So as I say, all I can speak to is the Kildare local enterprise office that I dealt with was phenomenal. Yeah. I've heard other stories about other ones. And I think there is a problem when it comes to the local enterprise offices currently that there isn't a standardization across. Like the fact that the Kildare one is so active and so, helping with, you don't really qualify for this grant. You're more for this grant, and this is how you go about it, and this is the paperwork you need to fill out, and these are the kind of projections you're going to need to do, and this is how you do them. They're really hands-on and helping. Whereas I'll be honest, I have heard situations where people just even don't even get a reply.
You think it's just really what staff is in what place, really?
I think there's a number of factors. I think the fact that I know there are a number in Dublin. I think, you know, because I think there's one in Fingal, then there's Dublin City has one, and then I think Dún Laoghaire Rathdown has one. So there's a couple in Dublin, but, you know, you have 3 or 4 in Dublin, and there might be areas, you know, say if a county, you know, in the west of Ireland that has a smaller population may have one.
They're all on their website, aren't they? All the grants and stuff that you can get and all the information. Is it all on the website, or is there more if you actually go into the office? Say if you didn't actually get the help or get the information off someone in a certain in a certain centre, like, or whatever, you can actually probably find it on the website then. Yeah, they're on the website. I would always suggest going in though. Yeah.
I always suggest going in, because the thing is, so many people email or call. And so I think my point there was not to try to say that like there should be local enterprise offices, obviously, all across the country. And I'm very happy that they're in the west of Ireland. But there's so many people in Dublin. Yeah. I think the problem is like how many, as a percentage of population, how many people per local enterprise office are there? And I have a feeling if you look at the ones in Dublin, there's a lot more people than would be in other places in the country. So I think that people get lost. I honestly think that potentially there's just not enough time to go through all of the emails or all of the phone calls and voicemails. So I always say, go in. So few people actually go in and go, hey, I have an idea. I want to start this business. I see an opportunity. I know how I'm going to make the product, or I know how I'm going to do this service, but I don't know. I've never started a business in my life. So please help me with this. You know, because they're open. You can go in and they may tell you, oh, sorry, we have no time today. You know, book an appointment. But book an appointment, and you just, okay, when can I come in? Oh, we're free on whatever time. It's a lot easier to say no to an email quicker, or to a phone call.
Yeah, talking like, or like in person, you know, asking all your questions or whatever you need to actually ask them. So was it hard setting up the app then for your business?
Yeah, look, it's one of those things where minimal viable product is what we kind of were always told. The first version of the system we put out, I kind of laugh of it back now. I look at it and I'm just like, oh, we actually tried to sell this to people, you know, just, it didn't have nowhere near enough functionality to what we knew, but we had to, not everyone has a bunch of money sitting somewhere and everything. We had a budget where it was literally like, we knew.
You start off small and then you're growing.
Exactly. And then we started adding things on. So we basically got the first version out and we were like, cool. And people started signing up and we went, great, we can show there is a market for this. And then we were able to get more money, you know, not only from investors or grants, but also we had customers now. People were paying us. So we were able to then use that money. What do you want next? What's annoying? What are the things you don't like? What's the other paperwork, which may not be around medical records, but what else do you keep, you know, in some dusty book somewhere? How can we help with that? And so we just started adding things on. And
is that like a subscription kind of thing?
So it's a SaaS business. So basically, you know, you pay per month. So depending on how many horses you have, you pay, you know, whether you have 40 horses or 100 horses, it's the same amount per horse per month.
Yeah, and then you're trying to bring back, is it the young entrepreneurs?
Oh yeah, this is a topic. Yeah, so one of the things that was massive for us, because there are unique problems that young entrepreneurs have when they start a business, and the biggest one. I met a guy who just set up a business. I'm going to get this wrong, James Fahey. I think it's called Tippet, or you know, so it's basically a machine that if you want to tip, instead of, you know, because who has coins anymore, instead of being like, oh, add that to my bill, you can basically just tip the amount you want and it just will take it contactless on the machine and it sits on the register. Great idea.
I had one of them in the salon. It was called Stripe, I think. Most salons use that now. It's like literally all the staff are on that, and you, like, whoever say gets a treatment done, like a customer or whatever, they'll just pick on the person and it just tips them. Most salons have that now.
Exactly. So he's started that business. It's going really well. He's growing, you know, at rates that are really good and investors would be interested in. And he went and asked for support. And we went to investors and said, look at my growth rate over the last couple of years. I'm doing really well. I want to raise some funding. And this is the line I got, and every single young entrepreneur will get. oh, you don't have enough experience, which is a fair comment.
I got that actually.
Oh, yeah,
I've done
not enough
course,
experience.
yeah.
Exactly. You don't have enough experience, which is a fair thing, because if you're an investor, the biggest thing that you look for is a track record. Because if you go, well, the person's started a business before and sold it before, you know, I think I can give this person money because they've shown they can do it. How's a young person supposed to have that? You just come out of school or college. How are you supposed to have a track record? You can't.
Yeah.
So you don't have that credibility. It's basically going, you're young, I can't trust you yet because you're young. And I understand that, but as a young entrepreneur, you go, well, what? How am I supposed to get over this then? How am I supposed to build a track record? How am I supposed to get credibility? And one of the things that was massive for us was Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur. Because that competition, basically you went in, you first started at a county level, you basically competed with all the other young entrepreneurs, and then you'd win your county. So we won Kildare back in 2019, and then you do the region. So we were the best startup in the Irish Midlands. And then you go to a national final, and it's in Google, and it has, you know, all the top entrepreneurs are kind of the judges. And so you get so much credibility that the investors who you then go to, you go, yeah, I don't have a track, but I was named, our business was the best business in the Irish Midlands in 2019. And it gives them a bit of, well, I think I might give this person a chance, you know? Yeah. That's now gone. You know, they got, now I understand why it stopped in 2019, because in 2020 we had COVID, and basically all the local enterprise offices were trying to keep businesses alive, you know, so they didn't have time to do Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur. But now it still hasn't come back. COVID's been gone for how many years?
You've been trying to get that back now.
I've been working really hard. And I should say this, there's been interactions with the minister, Neil Richmond. He's only recently come in. He's been extremely helpful. You know, so I'd be hopeful that something might come. But, you know, it's just one of those things. I just want to express how important it is that that does come back, because for young entrepreneurs, like, it's hard enough to start a business, but then adding hurdles on top of that because you're young. You need to have a mechanism specifically for young people so that they can overcome those hurdles. And that's the thing where, you know, because I got some back from some people I spoke to who were like, well, why should it only be young people? Isn't that ageist? And I kind of go, well, if it's addressing a specific problem, how is that ageist? We have young scientists. Is that ageist? We have underage sports. Is that ageist? Yeah. You know what I mean? If there's a reason there is that age gap, you know, if there's a reason for having, you know, those criteria.
Is there anything for someone? What's the ages for the young entrepreneurs? Was it up to 25?
It was 35.
Is there anything for after that for anyone? No.
Well, there's loads of stuff. There's loads. There's one EY. So there's EY. So EY have the top competition for Ireland's Best Entrepreneur. So that's open to every age. That's open to.
So that's still open.
Oh yeah, that still goes. Yeah, that's fine. That's still
going. What's that called again? Sorry.
I think it's run by EY's Ireland's Best Entrepreneur, and it's sponsored by EY. So Ernst & Young. No. So that's open to everyone. Now, it's open to everyone, but there are criteria. So I think your business has to be making a certain amount of money in the past year or something like that. But it's open to everyone. And that's my point. It's not like this is the only one competition. You know, there are loads of other competitions. And this is the thing. There's a bunch of grants, specific grants and specific competitions for female entrepreneurs.
Oh, there's just open for women.
Just for women. And I understand why, because you look at the amount of VC funding that goes to startups. There's a massive disproportionality between a female founder and a male founder. So they have specific funding rounds for the startup, competitive startup fund for female founders. They have specific competitions. And I go, rightly so, because there is a disparity that is trying to be like, make solutions to try and help to overcome certain hurdles that certain people face. And I'm like, yes, we should have those. But why then can't we have young entrepreneur then? Yeah. If that's allowed,
people just love
why
to
isn't that allowed? Well, like, I just don't understand it. I'm like, my whole thing is, I see a problem, I want to fix it. How do we fix that problem? And it was a great way of giving young entrepreneurs credibility to go raise funding. And if you look at all the past winners, you know Strong Roots? Have you seen Strong Roots? They're in the, you can buy them in Dunn's.
I've probably seen the logo or something.
Oh, they have their kind of their frozen foods, and they're like these delicious kind of sweet potato hash browns, and they have all the different things. They're massive. And he raised, I think it was like 40, $40 million. It could have even been more to go into America. Like his business is booming. And then Sharon Cunningham, who was the last winner in 2019, she went off and raised, I think it was 8 or 9 million. So there's a track record of if you win the competition, you get funding, or if you go far in the competition, you get funding.
So they won the competition and raised that money through the competition.
Yeah. Well, they don't raise money through the competition. They raise money after it because people look at them and go, well, you won that. You're the best young entrepreneur. And the investors went, well.
So they contacted them and said, I'd love to invest money into your company.
Exactly. It gave them a platform. It gave them a way of being able to showcase the business.
And stuff.
Exactly. And a platform to show, this is my business. This is the problem that we have. This is the solution. And this is why I'm the person who can deliver, this solution across the world. It was a great platform for young entrepreneurs, and it's gone. And so, I've been working very hard to get it back, and please God, we do get it back. So we'll see.
If someone is, say, starting a business and is looking for someone to say they didn't do the competition or whatever, and if they're looking for investment, where do they find someone to invest in them?
So there's a couple of places. So the largest one in Ireland is called the Halo Business Angel Network. So Halo Business, HBAN is its abbreviation. So HBAN have a number of different events that they run. So there's a big one that they do. Back when I was doing it, it was in Powers Court. So they have basically a room of thousands of investors, and you pitch your business to them. But they also do regional ones. So I know there's like a HBAN syndicate down in Waterford. There's one over in Galway. There was one in London as well when I was doing it. So if you just Google HBAN investors, and so basically what you'll do is you'll send in your business plan to them. And they have, employees who work for them, and basically go through it. They'll meet you and say, okay, how do you address these problems? What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? So they'll pick holes in your business plan. And they'll decide, this business plan and your business is good enough essentially to go in front of our investors. And so then they'll select you to pitch in front of the investors, as I said, whether that's regionally or at their big conference that they do each year. And they're the main people who, they're the largest in Ireland, angel investors.
But there are a long process.
It was pretty long. It was a couple of months from memory. It may be different. So this is back in 2018, 2019, you know what I mean? So I don't know if I know that the HBAN is still there. I'm just saying their processes may have changed and everything else. When I went through it, it was literally, you find HBAN, you send them through a business plan, they have an advisor come over, they'll go through your business plan, they'll poke holes in it and go, well, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Basically asking questions that their members, their angel investors will ask. And if you can kind of get all over those, then they'll go, okay, your business is good enough to go in front.
Was it scary talking about
it's like, it was. So imagine a room of like 1,000 people.
Was there 1,000 people?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was up there, but it was hundreds, easily hundreds. And they're all very successful business people, all of them. Because to be an
angel, they know what to be asking you.
Oh, yeah. So you pitch and then, and I was just out of college, a young kind of thing. And you're there and you're standing up in front of all these people who've been very successful, and you're saying, I'm going to be able to sell this software program over in Saudi Arabia. And they're looking at you going, are you though? And so, but it's a great experience. It means now that when we go to pitch in front of 30 people or 20 people, it's fine, because nothing would be that. But it was like, imagine, have you seen the show Dragon's Den?
Yeah, I've watched it before,
It's Dragon's Den, where literally it's Dragon's Den, but instead of there being 5 dragons, you have like a couple hundred.
Because sometimes they're a bit mean.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they're not there.
Did you get anyone saying?
Oh, we had questions, where literally it was like, have you thought about the market size? Horses, that's not a big industry, and how are you going to be able to do that? You've only just come out of college. What do you know? And that was a genuine criticism, and rightly so. I was probably like, this fair point. I am just out of college, so and that was the big thing. Like I did a master's in business, and I basically during the master's was like, learning all about business. And so when I went to start a business, I did my master's in business. I'll know everything about business. There'll be no problem. The real world is very different, very different. You get hit with reality very quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was good. It was a great learning experience to actually kind of talk and meet these other people who had basically set up businesses and been successful. And I think that's the biggest thing as well that I'd say, you know, the grants are great. The funding is great. You need funding. But even more than funding, you need someone who's gone through it. You need advisors. And we were so fortunate. We had such great advisors that we had.
And where did you meet the advisors then? Was that
Local enterprise office.
So everything through that really,
Local enterprise office. So they have, I'm trying to remember that, but they basically, if you become a client of them, they have a list and they basically, they give you a sheet going, what do you want from an advisor? What do you want them to have done? What do you want them to have? And we were like software, global expansion, bit of equine in there with horses would be great. And
that's mad,
they popped up advisors who were amazing. So I think that's the biggest thing though, because you're going to have so many questions, just so many questions starting your own business. And they're going to be really, really dark times. Like during COVID, equine sport was closed down. So, you know, there wasn't horse racing, there wasn't, and this was right when we were trying to grow. And we had basically lined up because essentially when you start to try and trade internationally, you basically go from the local enterprise office to Enterprise Ireland. So Enterprise Ireland is kind of, once you start to want to do business internationally, they'll move you over into Enterprise Ireland and the high potential.
So you still work with them? Would you still be working with them?
Oh, with Enterprise Ireland?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, we would coordinate with them 100% because they have people all over the world. Like Enterprise Ireland would have offices in Saudi Arabia and across America and everything. They have employees around that. And so when you're looking to go enter those markets, they'll be like, oh, you're doing what? And they'll, oh yeah, you're doing equine. So these are the 10 people you should talk to.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, they get to go to those customers and say, we want to introduce you to this business on behalf of the Irish government. You know what I mean? So their letter is not going to be ignored. Whereas me with my, oh, I'm a startup company and that will get ignored in 2 seconds. So Enterprise Ireland are great for opening those discussions because that's the biggest thing is to get in the door and they'll do that. But, you know, essentially it's just, it's a really difficult situation where for us, because you get registered as high potential startup. So if Enterprise Ireland see your startup and they go, yeah, we can see this expanding internationally, you go into something called the high potential startup unit. So those are basically the best startups they like to think who are going to have the best chance of expanding internationally. And so basically what that meant is if we raised money, they would match fund it. So if I raised 200 grand, Enterprise Ireland would give us 200 grand too. So we had lined up an investor in California in a venture capital fund. And we were like, great, this is right.
How did you pitch to this investor in California? Was this?
Oh, this is all done on Zoom.
Over?
Oh no, I did this via Zoom. So that was Zoom. But you know, they had people they trusted in Ireland who kind of we spoke to and everything else. But the main decision maker was in California. We did that via Zoom. And they had agreed, in theory. And we were basically getting through the discussions of, we'll get money here and we'll match it with EI, Enterprise Ireland, and it'll be great. That was in March of 2020. So what happened? COVID. Gone.
Oh my God.
Investor said, no. EI went, you don't have the match funding and our customers don't need a compliance system if there's no equine sport being done. So
what did you do? Just pause the company?
I had to basically lay off everybody. So I basically just paused it. I had to ask my own brother, who's my business partner, do you think he could go find another job during COVID? Because it was all about the business surviving. I'm telling you, it's hard. It is so hard to lay people. Imagine asking your own brother to do it. It was honestly I'm trying to think of a harder situation that I've gone through. It was really difficult. And then you're there and you're going, I've just spent 5 years of my life building this business.
And what if
and like that back? And I was there going, is it gonna come back? Like, is this the new normal? And now, thankfully, thank God, COVID went away and, the vaccine.
And did you get the same investor? Did you have to go look for another one?
No, I had to go look for another one.
Oh,
he got really hit. No, I had to go look for another one. So basically then it was restarted. And that was the bigger worry as well, was we were in really quite big discussions with a number of countries who were like, we're thinking about your software system. Let's talk some more. That COVID comes. Sorry, don't want to talk about this. Obviously, because everything they're like, there's just such uncertainty. We don't want to talk about it.
No.
And then once COVID goes away, you go, are they going to be interested again? It's almost like you have to sell them again. Now, thank God we were able to, and we announced our contracts with the Saudi Jockey Club in 2021. So I went down there and did an Irish trade mission to announce that contract. Obviously, not only to announce it, but we were part of an Irish trade mission. But it's just that feeling where you're just going, is this basically the last 5 years just going to come to nothing? And there were people who did. There were people who, had businesses that were solving real problems at the time. And then COVID comes and the world changed and their businesses just didn't have a problem anymore. So they...
Yeah, a lot of things are gone online.
Yeah.
Like my business is kind of like, that's what I feel like a lot of things can be done online now.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, but then that was the thing. Like I won't say the particular business, but there was a person who, saw a problem, had a perfect software solution for it. It was going really well. They raised, 15 million from investors.
15 million?
15, it was around that, yeah, 15 million.
Is this someone in Dublin?
Yeah, it was someone, yeah. And they raised that money. It was going really well. And then COVID happens. Everyone's now working from home, so they're not coming into the office, and that was a big part of the problem. Business is gone. So they were solving a problem. There was a real problem that they were solving, but it was to do with people coming into the office and traffic and everything else. But COVID happens.
Yeah.
Now, what, 30% of the workforce are working from home?
Yeah.
So that business that they had worked on and done so much work on it, and that's the big thing I also say as well. There's so much what's the most important thing? How do you be successful? How do you get this? Unfortunately, if anyone says that luck does not play a part, they're just being dishonest. It's just dishonest.
Yeah.
Like what he did, everything right, everything perfectly right.
Yeah.
How was he supposed to know that this virus was going to pop up and basically, make the problem that he was solving not a problem anymore?
Yeah.
So I think it's luck, unfortunately, plays a huge part when it comes. But I will say this, the harder you work, the luckier you become. You won't be lucky sitting at home. You just won't. And
I feel like for a lot of people, like it's not knowing how to go about it. Like, that's all.
100%.
I got a lot of information from my stepdad how to do things or where to go or whatever. Where if I didn't, I would have never known how to. Do you know what I mean? How to go about starting a business or like that's why I feel like a lot of people don't know that they can just go to the local enterprise office and they'll tell you all of this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's you had a person who could help advise you, because that was the reason why Tom Austin came to me around Secret Street Tours. Like really, I had no experience with being a tour guide. I had no experience with the tourism industry. We had to go find people who were involved in it to help. It was just, hey, how do you start this? Like, what is I have an idea. What do I do next? How do I go about testing that idea? What are the next steps?
Yeah.
And so many people, I think you're right. So many people have a great idea, have a great, business that they think, yeah, I can see, a problem here, or I can see, that there's a market for this type of product here, but there isn't that product there yet. But they don't know how to start. Where do you start? And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, fear and not knowing where to start.
Yeah, and so they just don't even try. It's not even that they have a fear. They would love to. They have the courage. They know what they want to do. They have the idea. Then what? You said you were very lucky to have your stepfather. If they don't have anyone who's ever started a business before, and they don't know. And this is the big thing. I know the local enterprise offices come under some scrutiny because there are certain ones that aren't as helpful as others. But the idea of them is so important, because it basically means if you have an idea, you have a business, that you want to start, and it doesn't matter then who you are, it is open to everyone that they can go and ask the local enterprise office for help. And it is a problem, that there are certain ones that will be more engaged than others. But the idea of having a place that will help you to know what to do next with an idea is so important. Like, I'm a big, big supporter of the local enterprise offices, huge supporter. Yeah. And I think Enterprise Ireland does amazing work. As I said, they open those doors, for us, for example, in the United States, we said, okay, we want to go into the United States. We spoke with, they have a specific equine head of Enterprise Ireland in America. And we said, look, we want to go in with, this is what we do, everything. It was that Enterprise Ireland person who introduced us to the head of one of the big American horse councils, who introduced us then to Kentucky, who introduced us then to the Kentucky Thoroughbred Association, who was our first client in America.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's those type of things where if I went as part of a small Irish startup to an American horse organization,
They wouldn't look at you. No.
they'd be like, go away. You know, what are you doing?
Yeah, who's this?
Yeah, who is this guy thinking he could do? Whereas because it was Enterprise Ireland, because it was an Irish entity, part of the Irish government,
Yeah.
I got the meat, and that's why they're so important. So I understand that they're not perfect. They can be improved. They need to be improved, both Local Enterprise Office and Enterprise Ireland. But having them there is so important for Irish businesses and Irish startups, because they both really do such amazing work. And I think that's why we've seen so many Irish companies in recent times that have done well, is because they are there. But I think as well, I think you'd agree.
Talk about more.
We need a better marketing channel for them to actually, be known. And
I keep saying, I wonder if I was to advertise it on my Instagram page, would they be like, who is she to
Well, it's public information. You are very.
I'm like, am I able to talk about it?
You're within your rights. It's a public thing, and the thing is, it's on their website. We're not saying anything that a person can't go and find on their website. But how are you going to find their website otherwise? You know what I mean? So I can't foresee, unless you're there. And that's why I said a couple of times where I'm like, oh, I'm not 100% sure of the criteria and everything else. I won't make claims that obviously aren't, but all the stuff that we've talked about is all on the website. But really, if you're the average person, has a great idea, is it?
Yeah. You don't know where.
You don't know. Yeah. You don't know about, and that's why I think there's got to be a better connection with the Local Enterprise Office and schools. They're very active in universities, but a lot of people don't go to university. Some of the best ideas and best companies that were in Ireland's Best Young Entrepreneur were people who never went to college.
Yeah, isn't it that we're more creative as we're younger?
Yeah,
so.
Well, I think also when you're young as well, and you may not have as much kind of responsibilities as you might take a bit more of a chance because you may not have a mortgage yet, you may not have kids yet, so you're willing, and also you may have a bit more energy as well, when you're younger. So you're wanting to kind of go, and you might take that chance. And you might also see market trends that have been missed because you're young and that haven't been catered for. And so the other generations may not have seen that yet. So, there's loads of different reasons, but I do think more can be done for the local enterprise offices to go into schools.
Yeah.
And
I would have loved that to...
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't go to... Well, I went to, I done a PLC, they don't have that in PLC courses. I feel like it was just kind of more taught to just go straight into, I don't like beauty. It was just go straight into a salon working kind of thing.
Yeah.
There was no what if you want to open up your own salon?
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah, and I think there are some... and this is the thing, there's a student entrepreneur competition, I think. Ireland's best student entrepreneur. And that's a great competition. Don't get me wrong. But I kind of go... That's only students then. So that's only catered for, secondary school students or more likely college, university students. But there's a bunch of people who don't go into college and universities who have amazing businesses. What about them?
Probably the young entrepreneurs.
Well, that's what I argue, but
but they don't even have that anymore. It's gone.
Well, no, well, that's why I'm trying to get it back, because that's the argument. In Kildare, there was a guy who was, he had an amazing Christmas tree business. And so basically he had a forest, he would grow trees and basically good for the environment. So he was able to grow trees from forest, but then he also had part of the forest where he was able to have a Christmas tree business. Great business. He actually, he beat me in 2018 for best idea. We were in the same category. He kind of, he won overall best young entrepreneur in 2019 in Kildare. So I won best startup, but there was a category like best established business and he won that. And then there was the overall and he won. And he didn't go to college. Yeah, great business, doing great things, helping the environment, a rural economy, making, employing, I think he had 20 or 30 employees. What does he do? So, but this is why I just think.
Did a lot of the people that were in the competition, did a lot of people end up actually starting the business with the idea that they had?
Well, that's the thing. Almost all of them. Like I still have a WhatsApp group of the kind of the finalists, and we kind of still chat, and all of them are still working in their businesses. That's the other thing where the student
they went
one,
through with their businesses. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing with the student one. A lot of the time, I've helped with, you know, my old school. They have like a mini Dragon's Den, and I go back in and think. But a lot of the time, because they're students, they're so focused on school, obviously, that they won't actually.
Wait, they have a Dragon's Den in their secondary school.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Is that the school that you went to when you were younger?
Yeah. No, but they don't start their businesses because, you know, they're still studying. So they're very focused on getting their grades, leaving certain thing. Or even in university, I found, you know, if it's a college student, the likelihood if it's a college student that's in first or second year versus, you know, final year, I always know the likelihood of the first or second year to actually go on and start that business or keep with that business is a lot lower than the final year student. Like I was a final year, like I was graduating when I started mine. And that's why it's also like young entrepreneurs open to everyone as well, because it's like a lot of the time, once it's only students, it misses out on a big swathe of the population, number one, but also it's open to those people who may have just graduated. So if you had a great idea and you've just graduated, you can't be in the best student one either.
Yeah,
so you've just come out of college and light bulb moment has happened 3 minutes out of coming out of college.
Yeah, because you actually have to think of the real world and what you're going to do with your life now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So what advice would you give to anyone then, say they have a great idea and they want to start a business? Just go to the local enterprise office.
I would say I do a couple of things. So go to the local enterprise office, obviously, start, you know, is the first one. Number two is, as you said, try and find someone you know who started a business. Yeah. Try and just find anyone, a friend, a family friend. I feel like there's more of that
now. Like, my fella's only have to go out on his own there at the start, and there's a few of like his mates that are like in working on sites and stuff, and like ringing him and asking him like, oh, how did that happen or whatever. And now he knows about that, and I feel like there's more people in my, like, where if I looked back at like my man's generation, or there's more people now.
Well, I feel that's
you'll
because
find somebody, or reaching out to someone on Instagram. Yeah, like. Yeah. I'd be delighted to help anyone if they text me and be like, oh, how did you do this or how did you do that? Yeah. Do you know, no one's going to say no to you. Well, if they do, so what? But
yeah, exactly. And then what? So what if they do? And, you know, and there's so many things so that would be the other one that I'd say. And then I'd also say, depending on the business, I'd always try and get a business partner. Like, you're going to have some dark times starting a business. It just happens. Yeah. It's just the way the world is. People, even if you get all the contracts in the world, people will pay you late, or something will happen, or one of them will go bankrupt, or COVID will come out and you'll have to, you know, try and react to that. Yeah. There's just going to be war in Ukraine. There's going to be some dark times. And it's so much easier to go through those dark times if you're going through it with someone. So I'd be a big advocate of always having a startup founder or a business partner, you know, a co-founder, just because they'll help you get through the dark times. Like, my poor brother was like a therapist for me during some of the times. I just call him going, gosh, what are we going to do? You know, COVID's happened. We've laid everyone
you
off.
and your brother that owned the company?
Yeah. So I started with him, and then I started with a college friend called Simon Hillary. So
the three of us.
Yeah, the three. Well, he then got, during COVID, he got offered a job. And I was offered very good money in a software, because he did computer science and software. So he was very much the software side. And he got offered a really good job. And I was like, during COVID, I was like, Simon, take it. I don't know what's going to happen here. Everything's shut down. The round is off. I'd take it if I were you. So he then went up, and he's doing very well in what he's doing. But we started with him. But it's just, Simon and Finn, it's just nice being able to have people that, if you're going through something bad, you thought you were going to get a contract or you're going to get a customer over the line, and they've turned around at the last minute and gone, sorry, we can't at the moment. You know, we just can't do it. Like, it's a really bad feeling. So to be able to have people that you can fall back on and speak about it with and come up with other ideas with, I just think it's a massive benefit. to kind of have a co-founder or a business partner. And there are some people who prefer, no, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to see anyone.
I'd be terrified if you fell out with them or something and then everything just goes to shit.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing where they say, you know, having a business partner, you know, it's like getting married. And sometimes it's even harder to get out of than a marriage because you're so intertwined with equity in the business and their responsibilities versus your responsibilities. So it was helpful that it was my brother, you know what I mean? So,
you're not gonna.
If we were fighting, I'm sure our parents would kind of sit us down and now listen, you got to talk together here. So yeah, I'm a big supporter. There's some people who are like, oh, never do mixed business and family, never do it. Da, da, da.
Oh yeah, I hear that a lot.
Oh yeah, you always hear it.
All.
Never mix it. It's over. My experience, I've loved it because you know it's someone you trust. You know, I trust my brother, you know, and it's nice to be able to go through it. And I'm a lot more open with him. So if there are problems in the business or problems that we're facing, I have someone I can share everything with.
Yeah, because he's your brother.
Because he's my brother. So I'm like, he's not going to there and be like, oh, how am I going to use this against Pierce? And how am I going to, get through the line? How am I going to get him out of the company? Like that one, because he's my brother. Whereas, you know, even a best friend or something, you wouldn't have that same level of trust that you have with a family member. So I just think it's so nice. And that's why you do see a lot of family businesses doing really well. You know, the Alltech, that multi-billion-dollar one that I mentioned, you know, that was Dr. Pierce Lyons and all the Lyons family are in it. And he unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but it's still run through his family. So you see these business, another one, Connolly's Red Mills is like a really big business in our industry. They're the top horse feed provider in the world. Like they export to Japan and have factories all over the world. Like they're huge. You're talking millions and millions. But it's the Connolly family. You know, it's just
and
it's brothers.
Think about
you know?
it now. Yeah, there is, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it
is like a lot of businesses that are really big are like all family based. Like
but there are some, and then there are some that aren't. But like you know, I know Elon Musk. You know, one of his business partners when he was starting off was his brother. Oh, you know, so his brother's massively involved, but a lot of people don't know that because you hear about Elon Musk and it's all Elon Musk. You know, no, his brother's been his business partner for a very long time. You know, now
is that with Tesla and everything else?
I think no, it was his first businesses. So he sold his first business when he was kind of in his 20s for tens of millions, and that was with his brother. I don't know if he continued past that. I think his brother is still involved in certain businesses as well, but like that's starting off. It was him and his brother, and I think it's just because you trust them and you're open with them. And even when there's bad stuff happening, you're honest and open with the person. Whereas if it's even a friend or any, you're kind of going, I messed up that meeting. Oh, I really messed up that meeting. It went really badly. I thought I was pitching them really well and I thought I got the price point right. Now, nope, they threw it right back in my face. If I don't really want to go and say that. Whereas if it's a brother, you're just, this is what happened. It did not go well. And you'll have that. And I think that's the other big thing. You're going to get rejected so much as a startup business. Like I won't name the person in particular, but like a lot of the big businesses won't want to work with you because they want to see if you're still going to be around. Because, you know, 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 startups fail within the first, 2 or 3 years. So if I'm running a big business, am I going to spend a bunch of time and money and give money to you if you're going to be gone in 2 or 3 years? No, I'm not going to do it. So we had people who were literally like, come back to me in 4 years. We had people say,
end up going back to them?
I did, and we got them. But it was literally, but it's literally like, that's what they say though. But the thing is, when you're starting off, that is soul crushing because it's literally like, they are your perfect, client, and they'll be the ones that if you get them, they'll tell, they're the best. And they'll tell everyone else, and everyone wants to be like them. We say the model farmer. That person's the model farmer. So if you get them, everyone else will want to have what they have because they're really good. And they're telling you, come back in a couple of years. And you're going, well, how am I going to be here in a couple of years if everyone says that I won't have any money in a couple of years? So it's tough. And dealing with rejection, and you're going to get it. Like I remember cold calling. So I literally, because horse farms they're public businesses. So you literally have all the phone numbers out and they have them in the Irish Field Directory and calling those, and say, oh, hi, my name's Pierce Dargan. I have the, no, no. It's just, you're going to deal with it. You're going to get at least 9, 10 no's to one yes. And the yes is just to a meeting. you know, and you need to have 3 or 4 meetings to actually get a sale.
Yeah, I don't think it bothers me getting told no anymore. No, if you don't try, you won't get the yes.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. You've just got to be aware of that, and you've got to have some resilience. But that's the thing is, that's going to be the experience of 99% of young entrepreneurs. That will be your experience. You know, so you just have to be aware. You know, you see all the nice glitz and the glamour and the conferences and all the nice stuff that goes with starting a business. At the end of the day, you know, you don't see.
That's only a quarter of it.
You don't see, it's not even a quarter. It's like 2% of it. You know, you say, and this is the other thing, social media. You know, during those hard times that we had during COVID, social media is all great. Oh yeah, everything's great. Oh yeah, we're putting up posts and everything's fine and everything. So no one actually knows what's happening. And there's some great things online where you kind of see like a startup business and the person, you know, it's like, salesperson, and they're like, in front of a house. And then if you look from behind the house is on fire. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like that, where I just think, you know, a lot of people will get caught because there is like a startup community. In each of the countries I've seen, there's always a startup. There's one in Ireland, very active startup community. And you can get caught up in everyone saying the best things that are happening. Oh, well, we got this sale, and we have this new part of our product. We have this. And it can kind of depress you a little bit because you're looking and going, yeah, oh gosh, like everyone's doing amazing. Everybody's doing really well, and everyone's saying how great everything's going. But you don't know what's actually happening in the background. You got to be aware that everyone is having problems. No business is perfect. I've yet to find the perfect business. It does not exist. So just be aware of that. Even if you have friends who say how great their new business is, I don't care what it's in, you know, and they say how great it is and everything's going perfect. And I
feel like social media presents that really like that, as if it's like all.
But you have to. And this is the thing. I don't blame anyone for doing it, because you have to. You cannot go on there. We could not go out during COVID and be like, you know.
No one would want to.
Because then no one will want to do business with you.
Yeah.
So you've got to put it out there about how everything's great, all the things that are going great. And so I understand why they do, but just be aware from a founding perspective, you know, don't believe everything that you see, and don't believe that everything in the business is going amazing, because a lot of the time it's only the nice things that you're seeing. And that's social media. And I think that's even social media from a personal perspective. Even when you go on someone's Instagram, it's all the great things, you know, I'm in this country and I'm doing that, and I'm in this country, and I'm off here having a great time. And you rarely see, you know, here's me, you know, head in hands going, gosh, what are we going to do? Like, people don't post that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's just I just like to say it because I think there's a lot of people who see all the nice glitz and glam of the startup kind of world. And just to be aware that not everything is what it seems some of the time. So
if anyone is looking to reach out or find you, where can they
kind of all the major social media, so Instagram, so Pierce Dargan, and then LinkedIn, Pierce Dargan, Twitter, Pierce Dargan. Trying to think. Missing any of? No, those are the main ones, aren't they? Yeah, and Facebook's obviously the same.
Thanks for coming on, Pierce.
No, thanks for having me.
It was lovely talking to you.
No, it was great. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. If you're looking to reach out, you can find us at Unlock Potential Podcast on Instagram or at Demi's nailsandbeauty.ie. See you next time.